Heavy is the head that wears the crown is probably the best way to describe King Canute as it stands. When you look at Thorfinn in present day, with each step he takes, you feel like he's closer and closer to being free, no longer being a slave to the revenge that has haunted him for so long. But when you look at King Canute, he's becoming more and more of a slave with each step he takes as a slave to the crown, and with 2 crowns now going to be on his head after the betrayal of killing his own brother, or getting very close to doing so that is, you have a man who feels like what he needs to do, no matter the cost, a kind brother who, even during his conquest of England, supplied him ships and people, was always there for them. Why can't these 2 brothers coexist? Eventually, someday, 2 kings, 2 crowns will cause too much issue, and it's all for creating this paradise that he seeks. To compare Season 1 Thorfinn and Season 1 Canute to Season 2's version of both of them, they've completely walked 2 different paths and are now, one seeking a path of freedom and hope, just trying to see a world without war and slaves. While as much of a dream as, and kind of a head in the clouds moment as you might want to say that is for Thorfinn, to see what he's been through to believe in that now is amazing to witness, but to see a king so willing to kill someone who's always been there for him just so he can have that crown for himself in order to craft this version of paradise that he seeks, it's heavy but amazing writing, to say the least. Now, full live reaction available on my Patreon if you're interested in watching. An amazing episode for sure, after last week of being arguably one of, if not the best Vinland moments to date. How are they going to follow it up? Well, they do it in a completely different way. They kickstart the first few minutes showing that Einar and Thorfinn are 1 step away to being free men. They have the option, if you want, you can be a retainer, which honestly isn't the worst job ever, given that seriously, retainers are, I mean, you look at the scummy retainers that were treating our boys' lives like living hell, the fact that they're hard workers, it's no wonder why he wanted to keep them around, and honestly, they would probably have a pretty good gig, all things considered, with where they were at to where they're currently standing. But the fact that they used a 3-year time jump, I thought was clever. After everything we've experienced, the fact that how much farming can you really show time and time again before eventually the viewers would say, we're a little bored of this. And given that the retainers that literally ruined their lives seemingly were pushed away, there's not much drama that was left there. So by jumping ahead 3 years, seeing that they cleared so much, with 1 more harvest, they're literally free. The boss comes in and says, hey, how about I give you a bonus? When I get back here, you're free men. You can do whatever you want at that point. You want to continue to work for me? Go ahead, you'll be free men. To feel such satisfaction after having such BS thrown upon them, to have that moment where literally it's a head in the clouds moment. We have Thorfinn staring up into the clouds saying, what about a world with no world war? What about a world with no slaves? You can say it's impossible all you want, but the reason things and changes happen across history are because of men like Thorfinn who have those visions that seem impossible in present day. It will never happen in his lifetime, but without people like him having those visions, changes never happen. And to look at where Thorfinn early on into the show was, with nothing but revenge in killing the man who wronged him of his father, the fact that he's now sitting there thinking, what about a world of peace? I am so interested to see where this new mentality Thorfinn has will go. Will he advise someone like a King Canute or another king in general to try to make for a more peaceful outcome? But then again, a person like King Canute, can he change? Then again, did we think Thorfinn could ever change? There's so much possibilities with that. And to use such a small part at the intro of this episode to set us up as like, oh, the thing I'm worried about is he's saying when he gets back, you know, ultimately, that's when he'll be free. I'm thinking, well, he's about to die and will never be free. And instead, they then immediately shift over to the king, who's much older, much wiser, but much dirtier. He'll do whatever it takes. He'll do whatever he needs to in order to get the job done. And for him, killing a brother who's always been there for you, that's just part of politics at this point. I never thought we would see him like that, and if anything, you would think that King Canute and Thorfinn would always be the polar opposites, and I guess that's true, but now they've switched sides. The spectrum's completely different, and the fact that they continue to show just how much of a good brother he was in the past when he was playing ball with him, to even in pretty close to present day with supplying ships and men, they were always so close. So why would you poison him? Because we know they're not much older than one another. So the fact that you see him looking like he's 80 years old, like, damn, what a sickness must have happened. And then the poison line drops. And I love how they use King Svahn, who is their father, right? The severed head, or seeing his face on his brother's body, basically like haunting him. when the first time we see is when the ball kind of comes, or the sack that basically they're throwing around like a ball, you see the severed head and you're like, okay, he's clearly got some PTSD. But the fact that over the course of it, he puts on this face, don't worry, brother, you're going to get better. He pretty much, because he has no heirs, therefore the brother would be the next one to inherit Denmark. So the fact that he just has this quick smile to then saying, don't you say that, you're going to be just fine and we'll play like we always used to. But this is exactly what he wanted. And the fact that it's so lonely, right? You see him just sitting in a room talking to an imaginary severed head, and he pretty much thinks this is what needs to happen. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. A crown, no matter how righteous your mindset is for wearing that crown, eventually things will happen because politics corrupts even the most noble of souls. So to have 2 crowns now, twice the weight, this boy is never going to be who we once saw, and potentially is never going to be able to have a more peaceful reign as ruler. And honestly, these types of characters usually meet very bitter and tragic ends. I mean, if such a nice guy like King Harald can go out like that, man, just seriously, what's going to happen to King Canute over the course of the Vinland Saga journey? He'll definitely last a while, it feels like, just given what he offers to the story. But man, the weight is going to eat away at him and potentially break his mindset even more than it currently is, talking to an imaginary severed head. I just think the more I watch of Season 2, the more my love for Vinland Saga grows. The voice work is spectacular, the themes and the heaviness is so remarkable, but I think really the thing that makes Season 2 so great is the polar opposite nature of Thorfinn and Canute. 2 characters who were very polar opposite in Season 1, of course, but they're now on the opposite sides of where they were in the previous season, just to now more varying degrees of insanity in ways. You have someone who thinks he can potentially change the world to be completely free of slaves and war, but like I said, those types of mindsets are what help shape changes over long periods of time. And now you have a king who's willing to betray to such a degree. What is friend, what is foe? He can't even take a drink that he doesn't know where it comes from. The only people who are that paranoid, while yes, maybe it's good to be cautious in a world of poisoning, the only reason he's that scared is because he knows what he's capable of, and therefore he can't trust anyone anymore. And a king who can't trust anyone completely, or have at least one person by your side that you 100% believes won't stab you in the back, who knows what type of man he will become in just a couple episodes' time, let alone the late future of this show. I am excited, I am worried, but I am thrilled to see where Vinland Saga Season 2 has gone, and I can't wait to see where they're going to take it next. But of course, that's just my feelings. What did you think of episode 10 of Season 2 of Vinland Saga Greatness? Do let me know down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload on the channel, and of course, as I mentioned, we do have that full live reaction available on my Patreon. And while you're there, you can also get a video shoutout. So today we have Brandon Lagarant, Ergo Hosh, Evelis Ortega, and Daniel Darby. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.